moment of silence as we begin today's show because Charlotte FC have officially been eliminated out of the 2024 MLS playoffs. I have Mr. I'm trying to keep a somber mood, but I can't. I've got Mr. Caleb Adams here with us today. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right.
Brian, how are you today?
I'm doing good. I mean, I feel relaxed. I mean, obviously the game yesterday was emotional highs and lows, but I'm hanging in there.
Nice. Yeah, we're all hanging in there. By the way, we were just talking about this, but this has to be the craziest, not the craziest, but three really entertaining games.
Yeah.
Charlotte FC Orlando, Cincy NYCFC,
Yeah.
Atlanta surprising and beating Miami,
Yeah.
which just makes our result just hurt a little bit
Yeah.
more. So we'll get into that. Obviously, this show will be specifically about this last match, right? And we talked about it, right before heading into these series that it was going to come down to moments.
Yep.
Dean Smith said it in his press conference. He's like, "There's very little that separates these teams. The table doesn't lie, right?" And at the end of the day, it took two penalty shootouts to determine who goes through, right? At the end, best out of three. And I guess I'll start off with you, Caleb. Talk to me about this game. Specifically, let's start off with a couple of those lineup changes, right? I mean, to me, I was surprised to see Patrick Ajiman get the go again, right, from the start. And then you had Vargas in for Abada, which was the biggest surprise, right? And so talk to me about what you think maybe Dean Smith was thinking. Is, Vargas one of his best defensive wingers? Is that why he was on? What did you see?
Honestly, both changes, keeping Pat and Vargas were not surprising to me personally because with Pep's return, Ajimang and Pep tend to be a more harmonious duo. Pat really likes running behind. Pep likes to find that ball. Soderski and Pep like to occupy a lot of the same spots. And I think that Dean saw that, I'm going to put Pep in here. So let's have someone like Pat running in behind. Orlando also going to have probably more of the ball again. Ajimang is much more dangerous in transition than Soderski is. And then Vargas, we saw his strategy. The strategy was Vargas, you're going to stay pretty much playing as a wing back, helping out Ream because Ream got cooked there last time we went to Orlando. And it worked. I thought Dean's tactics worked perfectly, exactly how intended. We sacrificed the ability to go forward. We were attacking most times with two players, so it was difficult to find an opening. However, we limited Torres' influences for the most part. He did hit the post. We can talk about that
Twice.
later.
That was-
We can talk about there's a lot of sort of discussions online about being robbed and the referee. We kind of got bailed out too about some fortunate situations. Yeah. Some of those posts were part of that. Regardless, the changes ended up working. We looked better than we did in the first game.
Yeah.
We were more threatening, and so I wasn't surprised and was pleased for the most part with how the guys played.
Nice. I mean, we talked about it also, Brian, about the importance of having a positive start to this game.
Yeah.
Right. The boys didn't look timid going in, so that was a positive, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think the one downside was like right in like the 20th to 30th minute was when Facundo hit the post like twice, pretty quick succession. Orlando really seemed to find their groove. And in the game one, they had found the back of the net. And I think if they had found the back of the net this time around, we would have been kind of feeling similarly a bit to game one, but they didn't. Fortune favored Charlotte a little bit in that first half until the Ajiman onside situation. But I think my one other takeaway with the Ajiman starting was just that I feel like Dean saw that if the game script ended up being like it did in game one, where you're completely isolated, Ajiman's the better fit in that situation, and then subbing on Soderski later on, which is what he did, kind of fits that mold. If Soderski was in that same spot from the start, it's just not his game at all to be isolated like that. So it depended on how the game script played out. I do feel like BL more involved early, which was key. That was so key to. I mean, the final product still wasn't really there. He made a lot of great passes. The passes into the box weren't quite there. I tweeted this out today. They only had 7 passes into the box the entire game, which for me, while they like plan for defense, having to play off the ball a lot of defensive work. 7 passes into the box is nowhere near enough. We're still not able to create in the final third enough for me to feel satisfied with the performance in terms of actually getting the result. It looked like to me like they were going to nick it, which was Dean Smith's setup. Having Abada and Swiderski coming off the bench set himself up for sort of like reinforcements
100%.
that Pareja had, right? So
Yeah.
I think that was what was such a issue in game 1 was Pareja could just keep hammering you with more and more subs throughout the game. For Dean Smith, having Abada and Swiderski able to rotate in offensive players just gave him more reinforcements later on, and it ended up working.
Yep.
I think.
And
Nice.
I want to add, I like you mentioned Pep because Pep got a way more freedom this game.
Yeah.
He got a ton more freedom this game, and we saw him. I remember watching the game and seeing him on the left wing at one point,
Yep.
and in the middle, he was dropping low. The part of the reason we were able to build out a little better this game was because Pep was able to drop into those central positions. It's been unfortunate for him that he's had to play from the right wing, and I think that's important to note is that this whole time he's been playing out of position. Yes, he would roam centrally, but we didn't really see him play true attacking midfield until this game, where I think he actually really truly played that role, and we saw how he can make the game flow. And the changes work, man.
Yeah, we saw it specifically in that very controversial play, right, where Patrick Agyemang scored, but he was offsides, right? There's been a lot of debate online about this offsides for Charlotte FC. I mean, even Tom Bogert himself mentioned that's a questionable angle that they showed, right? So I'll put it to you guys. Was that offsides or was it onside?
It shouldn't be a debate, right?
I mean, it looks
on
from that angle.
It looks on.
But it's just tough from that angle. If you straighten it out, it just depends on what that angle does to the Mirage. It's impossible to really tell either way from that side. Like the way the camera is angled, it's like really difficult to be able to make a final determination. That's one of the issues with those angles like that. And that was, I think, one of the big discussions is like, can we fix just having more cameras and camera angles? And I don't know, offside lines is another discussion. I think the Prem is actually having issues with those offside lines. I think a lot of players are having issues with just the offside lines in general because there's a lot of situations that get called off that are like, man, that's not really offsides, or it's not even impacting the play. So there's no perfect rule really, like when it comes to it.
I think
it's just kind of definitive.
The Serie A has those lines, those official lines, has the AI technology, whatever.
Yeah, the full plane.
Yeah, for me, I much rather have, even if it's I much rather have it black and white in terms of, okay, the machine showed it, it's clear, it's all, and there's less argument, even though some of it doesn't affect the play. I much rather have it be more black and white like that and just be straight up. If your toe's off, you're off. Even though it's silly, it's still very clear. And I think Italy does a good job with this. It's offside calls are always very quickly discussed, very quickly decided, and everyone sees the camera like, okay, yes, it may be a little bit low, it may be a little bit not impactful, but it's clear. Like, it's just black and white. MLS doesn't have that, and I don't understand how a soccer-specific stadium like Orlando isn't better equipped to have better camera angles. I just don't understand that.
Yeah.
Like, we're seeing better angles at Bank of America Stadium. And it's not even equipped. It's not quote unquote equipped for soccer in terms of that Orlando Stadium could. But regardless, it looked like it was on. And I also think it's important to note that even if it was called a goal,
that was my next question.
Even if it was called a goal, how does that affect the flow of the game? I've been back and forth on Twitter about this with a lot of y'all. Appreciate the feed, even though a lot of you come after me. I love chatting with the fans, my people. But I do think it's important to note that even if it does go, even if it's called, we're up 1-0, that second half, can Orlando just hit that next, pump up the next, to the next level, or we continue to go early in the second half, or maybe does that give us more edge, more confidence? We push forward, we get 2 more.
The world
right?
may never know.
We just don't know, and I don't really think that particular call ends up costing us the game.
No, I actually think that's a good point. I was going to take another angle on that. Because they didn't get the goal at that point, it's still 0-0 going into the half. You still have everything to play for. You don't have, and I tweeted that at the halftime. It's like, no more shoulda, woulda, couldas. It doesn't matter. Like, you're going into the half 0-0. Figure it out. Go in with a new mentality. The game's up for grabs, and go take it. And so the idea that offside or onside, when you like look back, hindsight 2020, yeah, it's easy to be like, oh, it's 1-1 draw in the PKs. If we had the onside goal, then now it's 2-1. It's like, okay, but then you can go, if you're gonna go what ifs, you got to go both sides, because Facundo Torres hit the bar twice, right? There's so many situations. So once you start what ifing, you got to go both sides. Otherwise, what are you even doing?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just the game was up for grabs at that point. It was still 0-0.
I like how you said that.
You know?
You have to go both sides, right?
Yeah.
We could have easily been down 2-0 in the first half too.
Yeah.
If we're playing this game,
yeah,
we could have easily been 2-0 and been wrapping it up, going home, leaving. What was it, Fillmore?
Yeah,
everyone leaves at Fillmore at halftime. Like, I mean, you know, like, yeah.
Somebody commented, "This has to be an Orlando fan smoking on that Crown Pack." Fair enough. I mean, we got to take it, right? If we give it out, take it.
Fair.
One of the things that surprised me, we were talking about some of the people at the game. We were talking about, or at the Fillmore, we were talking what could be some of the changes, and it was probably agreed universally where I was at that maybe we should see Abada for Vargas first, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Dean Smith surprised us. He took off Patrick Ajiman and put on Swiderski first, right? So I just wanted your guys' thoughts on that, because people where I was like, that's not the sub to make. I was like, relax. He's going to score, right? I said this, right? There's probably 5 or 6
allegedly.
People. Yeah. There's 5 or 6 people that can back me up.
As soon as Janssen misread the bounce, he was like, oh, he's going to score.
As soon as the ball went into the net, I was like,
I caught it.
No, but did that surprise you that was the very first sub that Dean Smith made?
I did, and then I was like, last time we were in Orlando, you know, during the regular season, Ajiman was on a yellow already at that point, no, in the game.
Yes.
You know, emotions have been whatever reason, Orlando is a place that guys get emotional in. So I think it was more so a precaution of, you know what, let's not risk Ajiman, you know, getting another card here and seeing a whole repeat scenario. But also, hey, let's also put our DP striker and actually give him some real time to do something. And if it goes to pens, we have our best penalty taker on the team. Well, that didn't age so well, but that was the idea.
100%, yeah.
Well, and Schlegel and Janssen are like, they have in 3 games, they have proven to me that they are like really good at the dark arts. Schlegel and Janssen both at center back. I think Janssen did some work on Pep Bial in game 1 to get him to react the way he did. I think there's a fair point about Ajiman on the yellow. Janssen and Schlegel seem really capable of just getting under players' skin. And just the way they play, they do weird stuff. They're just kind of like all over the place, and they look like kind of erratic players in that style.
And they give both of our strikers trouble. For whatever reason, both of our strikers struggle against Orlando defense.
Couldn't do anything. Game 1, game 2, game 3, really nothing. And that, for me, is probably another reason why Dean was willing to try to make a switch, because Ajiman really didn't have an impact in the game. Yeah. Same way Swiderski didn't have an impact in game 1. Yep. So it's just like Dean is just probably trying to find a way to get somebody going, because at that point it's like do or die, right? Just like, okay, well, this isn't working. Why stick with it? Like, it's just keep plugging at it until you can find a solution, which was, you know, what ended up happening.
Nice. And we talk about those DPs making a difference, right? And we saw that near the end, right? Where, you know, Swiderski and Liel Abada, you know, kind of connected for that very first goal, which was the first goal in open play we had the whole series. I mean, we went nuts at the Fillmore. Minute 80, I was like, you couldn't have asked for a better time to kind of hit Orlando, right? You go up 1-0, you know? So talk to me about that goal, the excitement that I had people texting me like, yo, I'm ready to go to Miami. like Atlanta hasn't even played yet, but it was such a positive moment.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the emotions were high right then. It seemed like a great. As soon as Janssen misread the ball and Swiderski, you know, played him on the other side and had a straight run in, it looked like a crisp opportunity. I almost thought Swiderski took too much time to kind of set the play up, because it looked like Schlegel and Janssen had a time to catch back up and reform the line. Yeah. But then Schlegel misread the play, stopped marking Swiderski for whatever reason. I have no clue what he was doing. He just gave Swiderski a ton of space there for the return pass from Abada. Great move by Abada. They get to the byline to cut back. It was a great play.
No, I was happy for Abada particularly, because I do think Abada's been our most consistent attacker in the series. I've said this before. He's really, it's been poor all around when it comes to attack. However, when it comes to Abada, he's been the only one that's looked like he's trying to take the game to the opponent, created some sort of threat, created any sort of danger for the team. And I was really happy for him. Of course, happy for Soderski as well to get that goal and make an impact. That's what you want from the DPs.
Yeah. There was one more thing I wanted to mention about that, but I think also it was a bit of relief also that the team felt as well because and we'll touch on it here a little bit more, but like one goal in 3 games, right? Like from open play is just not good enough.
No, 260 minutes to get a first, the
Yeah.
first goal in a series is like when you look back on it, like I know emotions are running high and there's the idea of like being robbed or stolen, but like that's if you're looking back at a 3-game series and you're Orlando and you're like, are we about to lose a 3-game series without giving up a goal for 260 minutes? Like you would be very frustrated if you're Orlando. So it really, in some ways, it's unfortunate that they give up that equalizer late, but at the same time, it also like there weren't solutions early enough in the series to kind of make a difference.
Yeah, and DPs did make an impact, but it was far too late.
Yeah.
It was way too late, right? Way too late.
But they made it, and then that final play, right, where Jabril Gianni pulls on Duncan McGuire's shirt.
Yep.
It's again kind of like the red card that Pep Biel got.
Yeah.
Like to me, it's like a soft. That was a soft red. That was a soft penalty. But at the end of the day, like the more I look at it, I'm like, okay, like he gave the referee the option to call. What I didn't like is that he went to VAR and then said, okay, this is the call.
Yeah, I was surprised it went
really
to VAR.
late. It took a long time. I almost felt like that was going to actually benefit Charlotte.
Yeah,
because it iced Facundo, which it kind of did because then he missed, right? Obviously, he was there for the rebound, but it seemed like that really iced Facundo in a way. It seemed like that's what Charlotte FC was trying to do, just kind of keep messing with them and kind of get that delay to happen for him to actually get the call from VAR to review it. I don't necessarily mind having a late call review because they know, I mean, the series is on the line. This is everything.
This is it,
So do go to VAR in that instance. I think then Dean Smith's going to look back and like, hey, why wouldn't you? If you're going to be that, like, just make sure concise and make sure you go through the procedures. Why wouldn't you do that for the red card on Biel in game 1 as well if you're going to go through that process?
Or the Ajiman goal.
Or the Ajiman goal, right?
Or the foul that Nate had in the box, which, it looked
Yeah.
didn't really look like a penalty, but that if that was enough contact for them to get a penalty, that pull, then when Nate fell in the box, that to me is enough contact for a penalty.
Speaking of like just officiating in general, it's been pretty poor this season overall. We know that. I also think that we may have gotten a little bit fortunate in Andrew Privet not
He had a
getting
handball,
reviewed.
right?
I mean, initially I thought it came off his chest and then hit his arm. But when you see that I saw it on TV, I saw a replay on TV, Andrew Privet's like leaning into it like this. And I was like, oh man, thank goodness Pat got a foul. Hit that, kind of scratched the guy in the face because they were reviewing Pat's foul for potential red, which is kind of
for
weird.
that yellow,
for a little whack.
Yeah.
And they didn't look at Andrew, which was literally right before it. Like I for sure thought I was gonna get reviewed. So I think some Orlando fans got feel hard done by that. However, with that said, I do want to say 2 things here when it comes to the Gianni foul. First thing is, okay, if Duncan is a flop, if he is exaggerating, like this guy dislocated his shoulder on this play. Okay, like that's either you're a terrible flopper because you're dislocating your shoulder on that, or you actually kind of fell against, momentum sort of went against you. You fell awkwardly. Also, the whole argument of, hey, how can you fall forward if you're pulled back? Like, this is basic physics. Come on now. Like, okay, his legs are behind Duncan.
He's running.
He's running at full space. He's leaning forward. His legs are behind him. Gianni just resists a little bit. Guess what happens when you let go? All that force gets built up and it gets let go and it gets sent to the other way.
Rubber band.
This is just physics. These are just physics here. That has nothing to do with it not being a foul.
Orlando
Yo, don't forget, I'm the one who called them chokers. I was big
chokers, and we ended up choking in the last second.
But I'm saying, like, a lot of the arguments I'm seeing for it are it's coping. Like, we're coping, guys. I get it. Trust me, I'm coping too. But we screwed ourselves over.
Well, and the ref was looking right at it. Like,
Yeah.
he had a clean look
Yeah.
in. He was like, it was like straight on for him. So like Gianni was also positionally like was in like the worst spot for him to like make that foul with. I mean, the ref was right. I mean, just looking right at him. So he made the
Yeah.
call pretty quickly. Just like, I see it. It's locked in penalty. So it's hard to I don't know what he was gonna find in VAR to like not keep it a penalty. I mean, and the announcer said the same thing. Like, how are you going to turn this off? Like, I mean, he clearly grabbed Jersey, clearly impeded his momentum.
Yeah.
Clearly, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's his arm, the jersey, his hair. Like,
And it doesn't matter if it was for a second.
Yeah.
Like, it clearly impeded his run. Even though that ball didn't look like he was going
No.
to get contact from Duncan, which, in Gianni's situation, in the VAR era, at that stage of the game, like, you're not going to get away with that.
No.
You're just not going to get away with that. At that point, you have to trust your keeper. You have the goalkeeper of the year, right? Potential here. Like, we have to make sure to give him a shot. Give your keeper a shot. He's the best in the league. Trust in him. And so it's really unfortunate because I did see some crazy talk of like, get Gianni out. Get him out of my club.
Yeah. Our comment section was full of
look,
Jabril hate. Dude.
Like, I understand like the being frustrated. Keep in mind, it was the switch to Jabril in midfield that kept us in the game second game.
Yep.
It's also that same switch in him starting in this third game that made us gave us a better start and a better game overall. We were a better team with Gianni in the series against Orlando. He was a big difference maker. And he's been a big difference maker throughout the season. He's been a great player for us in most games, in most situations. And it's crazy to talk to get him out of the club. No, like, I'm a Jabril stand. Like, he needs to stay. He messed up really bad. But that's the game, man. That's just the game.
Yeah. Let's talk about these penalties, right? Because to me, and I know Dean touched on it in his press conference where, they've been practicing penalties. Obviously, Pep Biel back in the lineup.
Yeah.
But to me, why does he go first? Like, I don't know. Like, the first penalty taker sets the tone of those penalties, right? And so I'm assuming we haven't seen any penalties from Pep Biel at the bank this season. I mean, none, right? So that to me, when I saw him grab that ball first, I kind of questioned, like, okay, well, maybe they know something we don't. But honestly, like when we talk about players that are going to make the difference, like, that's another moment where you take the ball and you set the tone. And unfortunately, it just wasn't a great penalty.
Yeah.
And that kind of set the tone for that penalty. So talk to me about the penalties.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like Dean Smith went with a similar strategy that he did in game 2, where he put his shooters up first, right? He went, Ajiman, Swiderski in game
Westwood.
2 when it worked. So I think he was probably thinking similar strategy. Just put your attackers up first. Biel, Swiderski are his top 2 guys in that moment. So have them run with it. I mean, the other alternative would have been Abada, but I think that was kind of, I imagine that's what Dean Smith was thinking. Put his first 2 guys up and then Westwood third to kind of like clutch it as the veteran guy and the captain. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't impressed with. I mean, I think that would be the only switch I would have maybe made is just say Swiderski go first over Biel in that spot. But you should be able to count on both of your DPs to slot it home confidently. That's why they're there. They're veteran players, 27, 28 years old, in their prime, been in difficult situations like this before in their careers. They should be able to slot those home. And neither penalty looked good.
Yeah.
No.
I was really surprised by Swiderski's miss. I had told my wife, I tweeted this out as well. I told my wife right before, I was like, he's never missed for Charlotte. He's never missed. And
I think, when was the last time? I think he missed in a penalty shootout.
I don't know.
before.
I don't think he's ever missed
in the
a
League
PK.
He
Cup.
has
He
not
didn't miss
missed an
one
MLS, but no, he's not missed a penalty.
I don't think
He's not missed a PK for us.
against Cruz Azul.
No,
No,
he's
I
not
don't think
missed
so.
a
Penalty
PK for
kick
us.
out.
I really don't
First-
think so.
No.
See,
That's why I said it. I'm usually pretty good on those. Stats, not always, but I was pretty.
we'll see.
But
'Cause
anyway,
I'm almost certain he missed one,
all right.
but it was like a shootout. But
I'm sure somebody in the chat will fact check me
Yeah.
as well. They're usually pretty good about that. But yeah, I was as soon as those 2 didn't go in, I mean the momentum. It was just, I feel like it was a rapid when the momentum was swung so far in Orlando's favor at that point. Halese was going off. The whole team was just.
For me, the moment where I felt like maybe it was premature, but I felt like we were gonna lose was when
Right.
Kalina saved it and they got the rebound.
Yeah.
When they got the rebound and Facundo put that away, at that moment I was like, we're not winning this, are we? Because for me, I just felt I was like, that's it. We're not winning this game.
The ball don't lie.
Yeah, I mean, like we weren't when I felt that way. I was like, man, I hope Kalina can come up big, but asking that from Kalina again. And at the end of the day, regardless of order, you said it, Jorge. Our DPs, this is the moments that they have to step up.
Yep.
I mean, Orlando sent up a college player who off the bench. He came off I forgot what's his name. I think something Smith. He came off
Smith.
Kyle Smith came on
Second.
from the bench. Drills that thing. Perfect penalty.
Yeah.
And our two DPs missed theirs. The pressure got to both of them straight up. And if your DPs are succumbing to pressure like that,
it's not a good sign.
Maybe questions need to be asked.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because if there's anyone on the team that needs to be pressure proof, it's got to be them.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the best player of the series so far. That for Charlotte FC, right? I mean, obviously a standout name is Kalina, right?
Yep.
But I also want to give it shouts to Nathan Byrne.
Yeah,
he's been excellent, right? Even there was an opportunity I think it was the first half for Orlando to score, and he came out of nowhere and had a crucial tackle. And I mean, like, this is a guy that like we don't talk enough about to me, because he's been very, very crucial this season. And so I would put his name out there. Obviously, Kalina stands out. It's really hard to look at one of our four, like you said, Abada. He's kind of been the best one, but it hasn't been anything that I feel like it's been super amazing. So who would you guys give the best player of the series to?
I would actually, I know in some ways it seemed like he was really getting hammered, but I do feel like for the amount of pressure he was under, Tim Ream actually held his own pretty well on the left side. In game one, Facundo Torres and Degerdan were all over him early in that game, but they never actually scored from the right side. Facundo, if y'all remember, Facundo scored off a rebound from Malanda, and then the second goal was Angulo going up the left side. So actually, no goals really came from Orlando's right side, even though Tim Ream was under a lot of pressure for a lot of that series. So I would say I would throw his name out there just in terms of having to absorb that much pressure and really withstanding it a decent amount. I mean, he needed help. Like, that's why Vargas was out there. But I mean, I would throw his name out there. But I mean, it's just hard to give anybody in the midfield or attacking line any kind of like props as the best player. I was hoping for a big series from Bronico. He was going in with a lot of momentum. I was expecting a big series from him. I don't feel like he really delivered to the level that I was hoping for, and I don't think Bronico would. I think Bronico would say the same thing, that he would have wanted more from himself, especially maybe shutting down Cesar Araujo as well, because he had, I feel like, a pretty good series against Charlotte. Just his ability to build up play and distribute the ball, especially in game one. They couldn't lock him down.
I like the Ream shot. I thought Ream was I thought he was locked down the last two games.
Yeah.
I thought he was really sharp the last two games.
Yep.
Malanda, he had a terrible first game.
Yeah.
He was honestly very, very at fault for that game. I want to give just a little shout out to Westwood. Because Westwood, I thought, did a lot of good things that weren't really noticed by fans and people. He also stepped up and scored both of his penalties.
Yep.
He was the captain. He showed up both times. He buried that thing both in the same spot both times. And Galicia guessed the same way as well. Didn't matter. It was such a good penalty. You can tell he's been there, done that, right, when it comes to Westwood. And he had some crucial interceptions. Was composed. Yeah, I thought he had a really good series in general, and I think he deserves some love. But yeah, Kalina, obviously the big standout.
Yeah, it has to be him for number one, right? Like if you were kind of giving medals, I would put Kalina at number one, because he kind of kept us in Orlando till they scored the second goal.
My argument against Kalina is he didn't do anything the second game because the team was great. Our defense was locked down. So he showed up for the penalty shootout. The start of the game, the post saved him a lot of times.
That's true.
For sure, but I'm saying, like,
he had
overall,
one good shootout.
Overall,
he had one good shootout. What else did he do outside the shootout?
He kept us in that first game. He blocked a 1v1 that could have finished the game in that first half. Yeah. So I mean,
that's fair.
Right. So I'm not saying this last game like it wasn't like he was phenomenal all three games, but if you look at what kept us to game 3, right, in that first game,
for sure.
He kept us in. Second game, obviously came in clutch with the penalties, right? And then the third game, like there was really nobody, right?
Man,
So go
no, I
ahead.
was just gonna say real quick. I think this is fascinating because how many times this season have we ever set an attacker as one of our players of the game or a
It's a
player of the
problem.
month or a
It's a
player of the
problem.
tournament? How many times have we said that this season? It's always been Kalina, one of the center backs, Burn, and Westwood, and Ronica for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like that's telling.
Yeah. Side note, I've been vindicated. Soderski missed a penalty in the League's Cup at Toyota Stadium.
Dang.
Cruz Azul
Oh,
versus Charlotte FC. He missed one of the
oh
penalties.
All right.
snap! Okay,
So,
respect that. I
I knew what
respect
I
it.
was talking about.
There it
I
is.
respect that.
Cisco just messaged it to me. So.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Okay. Let's transition over to your most disappointing player of this series. I have like 4 names in mind, but
I'll start.
uh-huh.
Honestly, I know Pep's gonna be a big name here. Pep's gonna be a big. I know he's gonna get a lot of the heat in most cases, and
He
yet
deserves all the
and he
heat.
does,
I'm
and
sorry.
he does.
I'm sorry. First match, you get a red card at the end of the game. Stupid red card. I know Dean Smith and everybody says, hey, like this shouldn't have been a red card. It was a red card. It was super soft. It was a yellow with tinted red. At the end of the day, got the red card, right?
Yeah.
Second game, we missed him, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, we talked about that. They're like, dang, if Pep was in this match right now, it may have not gone to penalties. We may have won it in the first 90,
Yeah.
right? Anyways, we survived that match, went through. Game 3, you set the tone with those penalties and you do not score.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If you're a DP player, you have to come in and make those big differences. Yeah. These are the matches. We talked about this going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, ran over.
And Facundo Torres had a big game, right? I mean, 6 shots, multiple chances created. Pep Biel, while he did show, like you said, helping with the build-up play, really nothing much in the final third. I think he had like 1 chance created. I don't even know if he had a shot. So
He did. He had 1 shot.
So
he had
it's
one decent look, and he skied it.
So it's just nowhere near enough volume, and I think that's what continues to be lacking with this team. There's times when they get a little bit of volume from everybody, but just they don't have a person they can turn to and be like, "Hey, we're struggling right now. You can turn it up for us." And Pep Biel had a moment to kind of show that he could be that guy, and he definitely did deliver.
No, I mean, and I said going, at the end of the season, everyone was saying keep Pep, keep Pep. I like him. He's a good player. But when I look on the other side, we don't even have to look at the Eastern Conference. When I look at Orlando and I see the difference in DPs and their impact, when I see that, I think this also goes for Soderski as well. When I see these guys, I'm like, man, I see Acucho. We look outside of Orlando. I see these guys. I'm like, these are DPs. These are guys that you just trust to give them the ball. You have to game plan around. I'll tell you this. I don't think Orlando game planned around Soderski or Pep.
That's a great point.
When we go in, guess what Dean's thinking? How can we stop Torres?
Yep.
Torres was such a nightmare to play against that my own mother, who is not really a soccer fan like that, even her, she was like, I can't stand Torres. Even my own mother could see just what a nuisance this guy was for this team,
mom.
right? Love you, Mom. But even people that weren't even following the sport, they can tell a DP, right? I guarantee guys who go to Columbus games, never watch soccer, they're like, that man Cucho, he's different.
Yeah,
he's different. Buanga, he's different.
Yes.
I don't feel that way about any of our DPs right now. I feel a little bit of that with Abada. Like there's moments where he's shown here and there of like, oh, he's unplayable. Like he looks unstoppable. But we'll see. I do want to go outside of Pep because I do think it was disappointing for not just him.
The attack?
The attack in general was disappointing, but I do think Bronico, I like that you mentioned Bronico because Bronico had found this playmaking ability before the start of the playoffs where he was really making a difference. He was finding some great passes, has some really good vision, really affecting the game in every phase of the match. At every stage, Bronico was there.
Outrunning everybody.
Outrunning. We can expect that, but it was that sort of playmaking side of it, vision side of it that really started unlocking the offense. I actually think Bronico's vision in those last 5 games was a bigger sort of difference maker than what we thought it was. Because when you have someone like Bronico being able to play make in addition to a Pep who can make those passes, these are two areas that you can't always defend. There's always going to be openings, right? If there's only one guy that can do that, it's only one source. And it makes it easier to defend against. I think losing a bit of that side of Bronico in this series hurt us.
Yeah, I also feel like one other thing Bronico was doing well was really finding the pass or the lanes in transition and finding the space in behind.
Yeah.
Which set up his playmaking ability
Yes.
afterwards. And I don't feel like he really had many moments where he was the guy in transition. Like I remember against DC, Reem hitting him over the top and then running in for the assist. I don't feel like there were many moments like that where Bronico was like the runner in behind and getting hit for the pass and then directly running in on goal, which I feel like that was what Bronico was doing so well a lot of the time. And I don't feel like he really found those lanes, found a way to get in behind, create a transition moment, and those kind of, I mean, that for me is one of Bronico's strengths, is because of his willingness to run, his willingness to work that hard, and then finding the pass at the end.
And I do think that some of that definitely you have to give credit to Orlando for, because their pivot, their midfield pivot. I mean, there's some beasts. Araujo and Cartagena they're really good players. I mean, they're top defensive midfielders in this league, and they showed it. I mean, they showed it. They were locked down for a lot of this series, and it's so difficult. You have these two guys who are so difficult to pass that even then behind them you still got good center backs. You have a good keeper. I had Orlando. People, this is not gonna help me when it comes to the Orlando fan attacks. I had Orlando winning MLS Cup on my preseason predictions.
Last week you said this.
Closeted Orlando fan.
The allegation, this is hurting my allegations, but I coming into the season, I saw Orlando's team, the additions they made, in addition to the players I already have, and the coach,
last year,
and how they finished. I was like, man, this team has looked like this is one of the best rosters in MLS. Like this is one of the best rosters in MLS, period. I mean, there's no shame in losing to Orlando, and we put up a good fight. But we saw that quality difference in this game. I mean, the DP difference, the difference in consistency in their midfielders. It was there, man. It was there. Like, that's just a really well built squad, and we saw that quality gap.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to add outside of that. I mean,
I will say one other player that I felt disappointed in for me was Patrick Ajiman. I really feel like there was. I mean, this for me was a series for him to. I mean, he got 2 starts, right? One at home, third leg road. I mean, obviously there's the offside play where he makes a really beautiful play, puts it in, slots it in with a chip. If that's a goal, we're talking about a completely different Ajiman situation. But the fact that he didn't end up getting the final play, getting the goal, getting the win, hurts a little bit. I don't think it hurts him a ton, but I think it was like an opportunity for him to really like take that position and make it his.
So more of that.
So it's like a missed op. It's not like disappointment in his. I mean,
it's more of a missed opportunity.
A little bit of disappointment in his play. Like he didn't he didn't have any of his really great 1v1 moments that he has in a lot of games past. But I feel like there was a missed opportunity for him to be like, I'm the striker on this team. And I don't think he like iced it and locked it down like he could have. Like I think if he had come out and scored a goal in both of these games and got this team through to the next round, he's the striker the rest of the way. And I think he had an opportunity to potentially be that. And then moving forward into the next year. And, that question is still going to be up for grabs. And, he's going to think of that as a missed opportunity too, I would imagine.
Yeah. And someone mentioned in the comments, kind of feel like Pat didn't get great service though.
No, he's never all season. And I think it goes back to
season.
He got 10 goals in a season where, I mean, Charlotte are probably 28th or 29th in chances created.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
Someone also mentioned, why haven't we played Patterson much? I'm like,
I mean, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
I mean, this game was really telling for kind of players on the line too. I mean, Pep Biel's playing for a contract. Swiderski not starting this last match. That was so key. Although he did score, right? So that a little bit of a bonus point for him. But I mean, there's a lot of question marks kind of heading into the offseason.
Yeah, I think it's important to also just say here, like, it's difficult to see this perspective or side, but I mean, we had a killer season. I mean, this was a really successful season for MLS. Sorry for Charlotte FC. Not for MLS because Messi got bounced out.
Garber's.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. MLS Cup has
Yeah.
been really.
Hey, they've been fun. If you're not, if you're not a Miami
Well,
fan, if you're not the MLS headquarters, it's been
Hey.
a great.
Hey, but Atlanta United had a better season.
Yeah, okay. I'm never admitting that, but
An interim coach.
We got an
just-
Orlando fan, an Atlanta fan.
yeah, and Miami. We
derailing
got a
really
Miami
quick.
fan for sure right
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
We all know we got a closet Miami fan right here. But I think it's important to note that the fact that we feel disappointed we got bounced in the first round against an MLS Cup contender, right, at the beginning of the season. Didn't start that way, but they became that way. That's saying something about what Dean's building. You know, the guys
Yeah.
felt they could go further. We felt we could go further.
100%.
We were in this, right? And
Yeah.
so, you know, this is very different to last season where I go into that Red Bull game and I'm like, I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah.
I said, I'm just happy to be in this
Yeah.
play-in game. Whereas this year, it was a completely different feeling. It was like, hey, we could do something.
Yeah.
You know, we went from 9th to 5th. We now have the second best defense in the league after being super leaky last season. We have a great foundation of players, both veteran and young. Privet, Reem, Malanda, Byrne, Westwood, all these guys. Gianni, I know y'all getting hate, but Gianni's still a great piece in his prime. Abada, right? So there's a great foundation here. And Westwood said it himself. We're expecting nothing less than a top four
I was
finish.
just about to mention.
So I mean, it's gonna be a good time. I think things are going in the right direction, and yeah,
from a standpoint of building towards the future, like you mentioned, like there's very little like I said it before this playoff series. If you know the team just goes pound for pound and loses slightly, you know, then it is what it is, you know, at the
Yeah.
end of the day, right? Like it's not like when we got hammered at Red Bulls, we're 10 minutes into the game, you're 2-0 down, and I'm like, bro, I just came here for this, you know. Here, you know, they took us to the wire, right? To
Yeah.
penalties,
Yeah.
right? In the third game, right?
Yeah.
And so, I also think from a sports perspective, having the team win their playoff game here in Charlotte also gives it such a positive boost.
yeah.
One for
It's
the
huge.
squad, and two for just the city. You know, for like the casuals that came to that game, they're like, "Yo, this is exciting. Let me actually follow this team because they're actually doing something,
Yeah.
right?" And I think that taste of the win is why Ashley Westwood went out there and said that our goal should be top 4, right?
Yep.
Because
Mhm.
if we finish top 4, we're gonna control that home game in that
Yeah.
best out of 3 series, and it's gonna give us a better opportunity to have more home games in playoffs.
No, I think this year we really took the opportunity and advantage of these big moments where we haven't in the last, or we could really move that needle. We have the hardcore fans now, right? We got a
Yeah.
good, consistent group that's coming in, watching the games,
Yeah.
supporting the team. It's a matter of how can we draw that new person, that you know, maybe an
Yeah.
NFL fan. It was going to take a playoff win, in my opinion. It
Yeah.
was going to take a playoff win to do so. We started the season with the win,
Yeah.
right? The home opener, that was a big win.
Yeah.
We drew the last two were bore fests,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
0-0 draws, but we made a huge impact, start the season, get a win, huge. And now we win this playoff game, massive in terms of the fandom, in terms of the culture and things shifting in terms of, you know, when it comes to more casual eyes and
Yeah.
viewers.
Speaking of fans, I don't want to cut you
No, you're
off.
good.
Over 460 people have joined our live
Nice.
tonight, so that lets you know.
My DMs are
just-
gonna be blowing up now.
Speaking of
that
I
just
just
lets
wanna-
you
I
know.
just want to fact check, just so you don't get hit up about it later. It was 2 losses. It wasn't draws in their home openers. The last 2. It was.
Oh snap, was it?
1-0 losses.
Oh, that's
late.
right.
Yeah,
Galaxy
1-0,
Was
That's
1-0.
right. Galaxy
I just-
scored that.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Even
Caleb,
worse.
Yeah.
we're correcting it on
Yeah.
live. So still on Caleb's DMs.
yeah. Chill.
Closeted Orlando.
Yeah.
Nice. Anything you want to add to that? I mean, like we've mentioned, it's been a great season. I really
Yeah.
couldn't ask for more. You
Yeah,
know.
really.
Yeah, I mean, first year, I think overall it was great. There was definitely that one moment where they didn't win for 6 games, where it was like this is a little bit on edge, but cleaning it up in the moments where they had an opportunity to kind of like set things up for themselves, they took advantage and did that. Dean Smith had them close to like that 5th spot up until the end. So even though they had that rough stretch, they finished the season with like a really favorable schedule, and he took full advantage of it. And so I think those are the kind of moments that were harder to predict in Charlotte FC in the past, where Dean Smith took advantage of the moments that were set up for him, and so he kind of was able to find ways to set himself up and the team up, and then take advantage of those times, and went on some good hot streaks. Also, earlier in the year, May, I think it was like June, July, there was a stretch where they had like 1 loss in 10 games, right?
Yeah.
So moments like that where they really got hot.
Yeah.
The 5 games straight of clean sheets,
Yeah.
right? So just moments like that where they really stood out
Yeah.
and differentiated themselves from other teams in the MLS.
And the 3 DPs that we ended up with this season didn't even start at the beginning of the
I was
season.
like, keep in mind, we're playing 1 DP for
Yeah.
most of the season.
Yeah, right. You
I
know,
mean, it's.
I mean, if people forget, but Enzo Copetti was our starting striker at the beginning of the season,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
no, I mean,
Yep.
I don't. People have to really like grasp this. What we've done this season is phenomenal.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
1 DP. If you look at the East, it's completely stacked with
Yeah.
talent, and this is arguably the most talented East we've had ever in MLS. As someone who's followed this league for a long time, and we were right there. They were talking about us on MLS Soccer. We really made a statement this year. Most importantly, the standards are raised. We
Yeah.
have the standards. They've been pushed up higher,
Yeah.
right? So now, theoretically, we're starting at a higher standard across the board, and we still got more room to go. That ceiling is still, a big chance to increase that next season. And Dean Smith's changed the culture, changed the standards, and what a great hiring. I mean, at the end of the day, we can talk about Kalina. We could talk about the players we bring in. Dean Smith was the biggest win of the season. That was the best acquisition. Shout out to the Charlotte front office for bringing him in and being able to make a coach of his quality. And yeah, that's the biggest win of the season.
So with that said, we'll do one more show after this one just to kind of recap the whole season, right?
Yeah.
Today I kind of wanted to focus on this game, right? Unfortunately, right, we could have been talking about Atlanta at home,
Mhm.
talking about the loss. But you know what? Shout out to everybody this season as well. Francisco, who's producing this, to everybody on our team, to Caleb coming in,
Yeah.
being a guest on as a closeted Orlando fan.
Yeah.
You know. But I mean, it's been a great season. Obviously, we wrap up another year, right? Caleb, my man, where can people find you?
On Twitter, it's Caleb Adams.
Nice, Mr. Brian.
On Twitter at Bam Mauer Media, and all my written content at topbid90.com.
Nice. Thank you guys for joining. Have a blessed night, and we'll see you soon.